Hello there and welcome to the Irish Film London podcast. My name is Niamh Brannigan and I'm joined here with the head of Irish Film London, Jerry Maguire. How are you, Jerry?
Hey, Niamh. Yeah, not bad. How's your last fortnight been?
It's been good. It's been good. And we were just kind of briefly chatting as well about the amount of Irish films that are in cinemas at the moment, which is amazing.
It's just like it's an Irish takeover in British cinemas, or well, in Irish cinemas as well, obviously. They're just out everywhere. And it's great to see it, isn't it?
Exactly. It's so great. And one of which we wanted to mention is going to be in the BFI Film Festival.
Yes. So the big news, I suppose, this week or in the last week or so is the release of the BFI London Film Festival programme. That's been announced and launched, and there's loads of really amazing, exciting films in that programme, as you would expect. I mean, it is actually a very strong year for the festival overall. But notable among that programme is a new documentary from Pat Collins called The Dance. Now, we know about The Dance at Irish Film London because we've been chatting to people about it for a little while, but it's just a really extraordinary looking documentary about a choreographer, Michael Keegan-Dolan. He's renowned as one of the most exciting choreographers working in dance and theatre in the world, really, at the moment. And Pat Collins, who you might remember from A Song of Granite, his previous work, he joined Michael Keegan-Dolan in the rehearsal and improvisation period for a theatre piece that he created called Mam, M-A Fada M. Mam ended up screening at Sadler's Wells and I think at the Dublin Theatre Festival. And there's a reference to the New Zealand Festival of Theatre Arts, and if I've got the name of that right in there as well. So it's something that happened in 2019 and 2020, but this documentary catalogues the improvisation process that Michael Keegan-Dolan used to put it together. So if you're a dance fan, like a contemporary dance fan or a theatre fan, this might be very, very appealing to you. I have seen it, and it's a really, 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 really unique film. It's really difficult to describe it, but I mean, I don't want to say that it's just like a load of people dancing about on the screen for 90 minutes. In a sense, it is, but it's like
I think as well, though, because
that's not the power of it. Like,
yeah, you know. You're really selling it there, Jerry. One of my favorite things about getting a job in the theater, like getting an acting job for stage, is the preparation of it. You know, the building of the world and the creating of the characters and stuff like that. So to actually kind of document that, and then for us to kind of be a fly in the wall for that, I think is going to be really interesting.
Yeah. And do you know what I think is really unique about this particular process, as well as the choreography, the way that Mam came together was there's this virtuoso concertina player called Cormac Begley, and he's kind of the center point of the performance aspect of it, of the musical performance aspect. And then the dance troupe, I think, is called Stargaze, and what they do is are kind of responding to the cues in the music in this very natural, organic way that's like, you know, there's very deliberately no process of like, we're going to create things based on what the choreographer says. We're just going to explore our movements and everything. It's a very free process, and it's actually, like, I found it was a very freeing thing to watch, actually.
Yeah, quite collaborative, I'd say.
Completely. I think that the essence of it is collaboration, and how things come together when you take away structures and when you take away, like, I suppose, the rigidity of like a process that you're used to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so
very
exciting.
Interesting film.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see that now. And also Herself has just launched in cinemas this week as well. And if anyone hasn't, definitely go and check out. We have a podcast with leading lady Claire Dunn and also Phyllida Lloyd as well, which is such a great chat. Yeah. And what a great
one of our earliest podcasts, that one, I think.
And such a stunning movie. Yeah. I think it's going to do fantastically well. So really excited for more people to go and see that.
Yeah. Do you know, there's a lot of as you would expect, there's a lot of like Q&As and sort of like in-person stuff that's happened around that. There was a particularly good session that Bird's Eye View did at one of the Picture House cinemas earlier this week. And if you can find that Q&A online, and you're a fan of herself or Claire Dunn or Phyllida Lloyd's work, I'd urge you to go and find that and hunt it out. It's really worth listening to.
Definitely. And Rose Plays Julie is also coming into cinemas for people who haven't seen it before on the festival circuit.
Yeah, we had Rose Plays Julie in our St. Patrick's Film Festival online earlier in 2021. Great to see it being released at long last. It's getting great reviews, same as it did when it played festivals many moons ago.
And also this week, the trailer dropped for Deadly Cuts, which looks like so much fun.
What's the? I haven't seen the trailer yet. I've seen the film, but I've not seen the trailer. So tell me what's the trailer like?
Well, I'm the opposite, so perfect. I haven't seen the film yet. So the trailer, it's just like straight off the bat, it just has you laughing. And it's the kind of film or trailer that you look at and you go to yourself, I'd say they had great crack on that set.
Yeah. So I think I watched Deadly Cuts at Dublin Film Festival earlier this year, where most people would have saw it before now. And it is absolutely from start to finish, just like has you going, has you laughing. Four girls in that sort of like, that group comedy setting where they're all slightly different characters and uses the tropes really well, but adds, and everyone's like a little bit of a stereotype, but only enough to be like, I actually found it really nice that it's got a great structure as a film. It's got like good character progression. There's like enough of a build. It ties up all its loose ends and doesn't leave anything left out.
And I was chatting to one of the girls who's in it, Lauren Larkin, yesterday, and she said to be honest, a lot of the laughs that you've seen are just genuine laughs. Like there actually wasn't a lot of acting going on in some of those scenes because they just found the whole thing so much crack to do. And also I went to the cinema this week for a bit of a popcorn movie fill. I went to see the new Marvel film Shang-Chi, which was everything you could ask for in a Marvel film, which is great fun. But before we came on to chat, you were chatting to me about a Jim Sheridan documentary.
Okay, right, yeah. So I haven't been to the cinema. I've been sat at home watching films because I'm programming for the Irish Film Festival London at the moment.
Exciting.
So we're shortlisting submissions that people have sent in via Film Freeway for that. That's kept me busy. I've also been watching lots of Netflix and listening to podcasts. And one podcast I listen to every week when it comes out is the Blind Boy podcast. Like whatever millions of people that do that anyway. And his guest last week was Jim Sheridan, and Blind Boy and Jim Sheridan were talking about the Sophie Duplantier case down in West Cork. And they started off their conversation talking about that Netflix series that we mentioned a few weeks ago. And then Blind Boy says, and you made a film as well, Jim, about the same case that came out at the same time. And I think I was walking to the shop with my headphones in and I had to stop. I was like, what? And he says, yeah, it's called Murder at the Cottage. And I've looked it up. He did make a film called Murder at the Cottage. He's not lying to us. So that one that we talked about came out on Netflix, and Jim Sheridan's film came out on Sky at the same time.
Oh, mad.
Yeah, and I don't know why they came out at the same time, but they're about the same case, and I think they approached the case from like two slightly different angles.
Right.
Like there's that podcast that's about the same events. There's just like a lot of kind of popular media about it at the minute.
But very interesting that they're both out at the same time. I wonder, is someone getting fired?
Or would I just wonder because of the podcast? There's like a famous podcast that's about it as well. I just wonder if there's like an engineered kind of release.
Yeah. Next time we're chatting, you have to. This is your homework now. You have to go and watch it.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's like.
Yeah. Do you know you were saying the Deadly Cuts trailer came out? Do you know the other trailer that came out this week was for the new Matrix film?
Oh,
That's all I've been watching all week on Netflix. Anytime I've ripped myself away from like watching things for work, which is still a pleasurable experience, I've been like, oh, I just need something that's in another world, and you can't get another worldly more otherworldly than the Matrix, right?
When you asked me there, do you know what other trailer came out? I was like, oh my God, I haven't done my job. I don't know the answer, but I was never going to get that answer. I'm so not a Matrix gal. I was never going to get that answer.
No, I loved it. I was all about the Matrix, and I watched the first one, the first Matrix film last week, and you know what got me going was the soundtrack. It's like Rob Zombie followed by Orbital or Chemical Brothers or something like that, and it's just like, oh, I feel young again.
It is quite nice kind of revisiting films like that like, you know, kind of classics like that, and finding new stuff in them, for sure.
Yeah
Now it's going to be your Spotify most played.
That's it.
Soundtrack.
It's going to wreck my algorithm now. Yeah.
Well, along with people now will probably also go back and visit the Matrix that you've popped it into their heads. But while you're doing that, you should also go and check out our September shorts that we have for you guys on Irish Film From Home. There's some really, really gorgeous shorts on there. And while you're there, you should consider becoming a member, because you'll get loads of free perks. You'll get loads of ins and scoop on what's going on. And you'll also be supporting us, which, I mean,
yeah,
who wouldn't want to?
Who wouldn't want to support us? Sure, look at us.
Exactly. People should pay for this.
Irish Film London members get extra benefits that just come along sometimes that we don't like. We can advertise what we can offer people, but this year we've been able to, like, people get in touch sometimes and we're like, would you like some free tickets to a thing, because we've got some hospitality tickets to give away and it'd be nice to see us down there. And we always email them back and we go, we'd love to come to your thing, but what we'd really love to do is give those freebie tickets out to our members.
Yeah,
so people
exactly.
have been to see like open air cinema screenings. Some people went to watch World Cup matches in Trafalgar Square earlier this year.
And it's only going to get better now with everything.
Yeah. There's so much stuff going on. Yeah. So there's lots and lots and lots of reasons, other than the free cinema tickets and the discounts year round and the kudos of being a member. There's lots of reasons to be an IFL member. Have we plugged this enough now?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, go and check out the website, check out our shorts, and consider becoming a member. And I hope everyone enjoys this podcast. Today we are chatting to Cathy Brady, chatting about the feature film Wildfire. And I hope you all enjoy, and I will chat to you soon, Jerry.
Chat you soon, Niamh.
Bye. Cathy Brady, thank you so much for coming on to talk to me today, especially during such a busy press schedule. So I really appreciate it, because Wildfire is now out in cinemas and it's finally getting its much anticipated release. And I'm really looking forward to more people seeing it, because it's such a stunning piece of work. But first off, I'd love to start off on a little high by congratulating you for your IFTA award for Best Director. So,
thank you.
Receiving an award like that for your first feature.
Yeah, that was a totally bonkers kind of experience, because it was virtual, and so it was just like
were you wearing shoes?
No. No, I really wasn't. So I kind of was like, right, what'll I do? Well, I'll get a dress, and sure, I'll get my hair and makeup done, but sure, I'm just going to stay in the house. And I was actually staying with my parents because I was just about to move to England. So it was like back in my childhood house and back in their kitchen. And then, a few friends came around, and, they were off in the corners, and I was like, shh, okay. And we were up for a couple of awards that night. So I kind of was starting to get an inkling of how, when you get the award. They would come in and they would just ask you a question, or could you just count to 10 there? And so that happened a few times. It's like, oh, okay. So we haven't got this one. And so I had really kind of settled into going, fantastic. It's great to do this, great to be nominated, but like, that was it. No one came in to ask me to count anything. So I was like, okay. So then, Colin Farrell does his thing, and I honestly was gobsmacked. I was like, what the hell?
Well, I think it's very, very well deserved, because you not only wrote Wildfire, but you obviously directed it as well. So chat to me kind of about the inspiration behind it, because I was reading up on the Erikson twins. Yeah, like what was the writing like for it?
We started with casting first, like, so that's what's very unusual about this film. It wasn't we had an idea first. It was actually I had just worked with Nikka and Nora-Jane separately, and bloody loved the bones of them and loved their range, you know. And I felt like I already had such a shorthand with them. I was like, oh my God, I'd love to work with them again. But I also had this sense that they had this both an ability to be courageously vulnerable, and yet they're really fierce women and really kind of physical and demanding in terms of their presence. And I was like, what would happen if you put that combo together? And so we did that, and we had a conversation, and we were like, okay, what ideas are you into? What characters are you into? And we didn't quite know what we wanted to make, but we were like, right, our goalpost is fierce women, and like women that we hadn't really seen, complicated women. And I had said to them, you know, this was a few weeks, you know, back and forward. And I think we had a Facebook page, and we were adding pictures and music and all different sorts of things. And I said, have you seen this documentary footage? And I seen it like 10 years prior. And I remember the moment I seen it, like, I think I was studying at IDT at the time. And I remember exactly how I seen it, but I remember being really shook when I first seen it. I showed it to the girls, and they had the same response. And in the footage, you see these two sisters walking along the middle of the M6, and they walk into oncoming traffic and survive. And one of them gets up after being hit by a car. She runs to the other side of the motorway. She screams to her sister, they're not real. They'll steal your organs. And it was just so complicated and almost existential watching it. But equally, we're like, what would make two sisters behave in that way and be so linked in their thoughts? And, you know, then we started research psychosis, shared psychosis. And that really was, you know, that was the starting point. And then I was like, I feel like the story needs to come home to borderland, Northern Ireland, where I'm from. And that's where it really started to take root, because we realized that, you know, in that community, there is so much trauma, and there is a shadow of the Troubles. And not that I wanted to make a political film, but this is kind of what happens. Sometimes the more you drill into the personal, like, you realize that, okay, if trauma, if psychosis can come from a repressed trauma, well, then that trauma can sometimes be in the past and it's been repressed. So we needed to know everything about their family dynamic in the past. And then you start looking at, okay, socially, what was happening, you know, politically, what was happening. And of course, we couldn't escape the Troubles then. But I never wanted it to feel like in your face at the front of the film. But like, I think growing up on the border, it's always around you anyway, you know, the murals, the flags, and you do take that for granted after a while. And in many ways, I didn't realize my own experience of living in the North until I went to study in Dublin or in London. And you share your stories of what it was like being a kid during the Troubles. And they're like, what? That's insane. Yeah. How? You know? And so it really, Wildfire allowed me to look at all those things and to ask questions and even get talking to my parents. And I heard stories I'd never heard before that had happened, you know? So it was really, it was a really interesting personal journey for many reasons, making Wildfire.
It's such an interesting process of having, I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard of anything like that, of having your two actors first and then kind of, so it was obviously clearly like a real collaborative process, which is such a dream for kind of any creator, actor or director as well. And then, as you just touched on there, like the fact that it is set in Northern Ireland, I think really complements both characters, and especially Nikka's character Kelly, really nicely, in the sense of just kind of feeling a feeling of loss, because I can only imagine a generation in Northern Ireland that struggles with their identity and that kind of ripple effect of the history of their country, much like the females in this film struggling with the ripple effect of their past traumas within themselves and their families. So was that quite important to you and to the girls to kind of give more of a voice to people like that?
Yeah, and it was always this kind of back and forth approach as we were, you know, figuring out character traits and backstory. We would go and look and sort of and sort of feel out the authenticity of that. So like intergenerational trauma, there were so many case studies done on that, specifically in Northern Ireland, because there's a lot of European funding money, and there was some really amazing case studies where, you know, you had people talking about, you know, maybe they had lost a parent during, you know, when they were very young, too young to even maybe remember that parent, but somehow their whole language in life has been shaped around explosive dialogue, or so it's like, oh my God, it's changed how they communicate. Like, and it just really made me realize that sometimes it's very subconscious, and so there's maybe stuff within my own way of talking about the North that's very much in my subconscious, and I don't fully know how to articulate it. So I don't think I had an agenda, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But I think I was always trying to eke out the feelings and try to understand and come to terms with something, which all sounds very abstract. But I think in a way, you know, when you're dealing with a story that deals with psychosis, it can't be too prim and proper, because that's what we found when we spoke to two sisters who had a shared psychosis. Like, the subconscious works in a really strange way, you know, and you don't know why a particular hallucination is happening for you, a delusion, you know, and when you look back, it can be very complicated and muddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just chatting about the two sisters, so obviously Nora-Jane and Nikka MaGuigan, and it wouldn't be right for me to not recognise Nikka MaGuigan's presence being missed here today and every day, unfortunately. But I was just so excited today to just dive in and chat about this very special film, because that's what it is. I think it's a really special piece of work. So, as you said, you've worked with Nora-Jane and Nikka before. You worked with Nora-Jane on your IADT short, Small Change, and then also with Nikka on Can't Cope, Won't Cope. So do you quite like having a kind of a pool of actors that you already have a shorthand with, that you can, you know, you nearly skip that process of the whole kind of getting to know and getting comfortable and whatever, and you can just kind of dive straight into projects like that?
I think so. Like, I think with Nora-Jane, I had done my master's with her as well. So Wildfire is our trilogy, you know, the trilogy on Nuri, it's done. But it's just this gut thing. Like, it's this gut thing. And sometimes I've worked with actors and I'm like, yeah, maybe I will work with you again, maybe I won't. But with Nikka and Nora-Jane, it was always very different. Like, it was something like, we jokingly kind of used to say, like, we read this in the stars or before, you know, because it was just our bond was very tight, the three of us. And I think in like Nikka and Nora-Jane's bond was very, very interesting, because two actors don't normally get to kind of play siblings and have 5 years to work that out, you know. And in many ways they feel like sisters because they behave like sisters, you know. They were able to argue with each other, they were able to complement each other, to support each other. It was very real, you know. And I think sometimes when actors turn up and they have to play lovers or siblings, they've literally just met, and they put on a show of the idea of what it is to be a sibling, the idea of what it's to be a lover, but to live in it and to be in so many workshops and constantly challenge, that was really exciting. And what I really enjoyed working with them is they actually worked in very different ways. Nikka was incredibly physical. You know, she came from body first. You know, she wanted to physicalize it and not overanalyze it, you know. Nora-Jane, we would like to kind of process, we'd like to research, we'd like to talk about it, and then she would bring it into the body, you know. And in a way that became very interesting in workshops, because how do you make a space that works for both actors? And sometimes it didn't work for one or the other, and that became complicated. And, you know, there was tension would come from that, but equally magic would come from that as well. And so I think I'm drawn to actors who are interested in going on a process. And I think workshopping with actors is very different than rehearsal. You know, I'm not with rehearsal, like, I am mining what they are giving for story, for character, and so therefore they have to 100% commit to a choice, to a truth. And if they only like half bake an idea or half commit to a choice, in a way it leads to a false beat for story. Whereas if I was doing TV and I was just rehearsing something, I wouldn't be demanding an actor to give me everything, because I don't need it. We're not shooting it. So I don't think every actor is a workshop actor, because it's very demanding. And being a writer director, it's actually very demanding as well, because you have to witness that. And it's, you know, there's some amazing moments we had in workshops, but they weren't right for this film. So then how do you hold what's actually right for the film? And then how do you let go of the stuff that's not right? And, you know, we took many turns with Wildfire, you know, so it definitely, and this is at workshop stage, because it's settled much more when it came to script, because then you commit to choices. But what's interesting is there's nothing in the film that's improvised. It's all scripted, but it has an energy as though, because people go, it's improvised. I'm like, it's not. I'll show you the script.
Yeah.
It's, you know, but it's because they worked so long. It was so in the body.
That's impressive, because it really just, but it feels not even that it feels improvised, but it feels just so fresh and like in the moment and raw. And that's exactly what all of that workshop work, then that was the outcome. And like, and as I said, as we were saying about it being a collaborative process, sometimes, well, not for every creator, but sometimes that can just be such a dream to kind of, you know, be involved in the growth of it and being open to things changing, and, you know, not holding on to ideas or. And
I remember at the early stages, I found it really overwhelming. Like, you know, it wasn't a dream either. It was a challenge because, you know, I had got funding based on the cast, and we got funding to get a researcher. You know, we were hearing all these real stories and, you know, building up this pool of fact. And I was witnessing what was happening in the workshops. And yet I had all this material and I had to go away and write the first draft of the script, and I shat myself. I think I cried. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. How am I meant to bring this all together? This is so hard.
So overwhelming.
So overwhelming. But, you know, I honestly felt every stage of the script got easier and easier because we were refining constantly what it was. But I think the first thing was the hardest. And I don't know if it's because I don't like writing, but I found that a real challenge. But then it was really exciting, and, you know, having a draft, and then that became this skeleton to then really refine from.
And you direct a lot of stuff that you write. Do you kind of write with the idea of directing, or does it just kind of come to fruition that, well, I know it best, and you know, I know the material the best, and maybe I'd be the best person for the job?
I only write out of necessity. I don't love writing. I love working with actors. I love collaboration. I get moments where I enjoy writing, but like the majority of it, I find it grueling. You know, but you do it because you want to work with those actors. You want to work and you want to film that scene that you eventually managed to get right. So I mean, because, you know, I have friends that are writers, I'm like, oh yeah, I just don't have that thing that they have. But you know, yeah, so I couldn't imagine writing something that I would hand over to someone else to direct, because I don't think like that. I think like, I'm writing this to direct it, you know?
Yeah, and you're creating your own work as well. You're not just sitting around kind of waiting for the phone to ring, although I'm sure it's going to be off the hook now. But one, I wanted to really ask and chat about the bar scene, because as I said, it felt so kind of raw and in the moment. And I was going to ask, you know, did you just kind of, how did you prep the girls, and did you just kind of point the camera and shoot and see what they came up with? But obviously, as you said, everything was just workshopped and blocked.
It was workshopped. It was shot listed. You know, because we had a 6.5 week shoot, which probably sounds like a lot, but in this film there were so many major set pieces. You know, if we weren't shutting down a motorway, we were setting a field on fire. If we weren't doing that, we were trying to shoot underwater scenes with kids, or we were trying to shoot with a wolf, or, you know, it was just endless, the stuff that you know, like the ambition of what we wanted to achieve. So we didn't have room for like, oh, let's just, you know, see what happens. And, you know, I was working with Christelle Fonnier, who's an amazing DP, and, you know, and she was very thorough and very prepped, and, you know, she knew everywhere where the light was going to be. We shot list every single scene of the film, and we storyboard some of our major sequences. So, for example, with the bar scene, you know, the if you're talking about the interaction between the two men, like Nikka and Nora-Jane would have only met David Pearce, and Peter Balance on that day. Like they might have met them before, you know, on their set, but in terms of our set, like we had no rehearsal with them. We were just like, we had their dance scene to shoot that morning, and we had the confrontation the afternoon. So I don't know how many hours, how many minutes of footage that is, but that's quite significant. But we had only one day to shoot it, and that was constantly this film. Like we had to shoot a lot, and we hadn't a lot of time. But Nikka and Nora-Jane were so physically in their roles at that stage that like we had such shorthand that I wasn't really giving notes. I don't feel like there was major. There might have been other scenes where it was actually much more delicate in the notes, but a lot of it, like we had established such a shorthand that I wasn't micromanaging. In fact, I hate micromanaging. I was just sort of giving it over to the actors and, you know, making sure we had the coverage.
Yeah, exactly. I think with the dance scene as well in the bar, it's quite kind of tribal-esque, and at times, you know, throughout the film, with there being such a strong kind of theme of family, which is also your tribe, you know, and being protective of that. And I think that really, for me, that's one of the scenes that really stuck with me throughout the film.
But that scene's interesting because that was based on their first workshop, because I didn't have script at that stage. So all I had was their physicality, and how could I start beginning to talk about energy dynamics? So I used music. So it was a case of, we rented out a hall, and one of the first songs I played was Patti Smith's Horse is the Land of a Thousand Dances. And I played it full blast. And I was like, you need to match the energy of the song. Nikka, as I said, fully physical, very athletic. My God, she threw herself straight into it. And Nora-Jane was like, whoa, this is their first time. She's like, okay, all right, count me in. And then so she matches her energy, and it became very interesting. They were kind of constantly kind of up in the energy, up in the rawness, the physicality of it. And, you know, eventually they stopped competing, and they just allowed each other to be present with each other. And that's where we witnessed, this is what this film is about.
Exactly.
And what is remarkable is, like, you know, because we had a researcher and we were filming it, you know, I knew it in the moment that I was witnessing something powerful. You know, that first week of workshops, I was like, we still don't have script, but holy shit, we have something, you know. And so I went away and I looked at the footage, and, you know, I think I will release the footage at some stage, but, like, you know, we went away, we looked at the footage, and like, that has to be within the film somewhere. And when it came to writing the script, of course it went in, and I figured out where it should go in. And then when it came to filming it, we looked back on the footage, and we worked with Junk Ensemble, identical twin choreographers, and we realized a lot of what they had done instinctually was right. So we didn't need to do that much. We tweaked some elements for camera, but a lot of what they give up on the very first meeting, the very first day, is what we use in the film.
Wow.
And I think what's interesting about that as a scene is we don't get to see women dance like that.
No.
Especially not in cinema. Maybe in real life. Maybe when you've had a few drinks and, you know, all the ambitions let loose. But you know what's so fascinating about this scene is they're dancing for themselves, not for the male gaze, not for any attention. They don't give a shit. In fact, you know what I mean. And it's funny. This guy had said the dance feels very incestuous. I was just like, again, we have to bring it back to sex. We have to bring it back to, how about, you know, it's this fear of the primal woman. Therefore, it has to be sexualized, you know.
I mean, I agree that there's kind of a primal thing, but that's what. But I automatically went towards more of just a tribal thing, and like a sisterly thing, and a blood, you know, like blood thicker than water thing, as opposed to.
I know.
It's different.
But I do think it's maybe it's a lack of language, a lack of maybe representation that, you know, we'll box it into, it's an incestuous dance. You know, because, you know, what references have we got of women dancing?
Agreed. And I think as well, one thing that about the film that makes it so refreshing and important to me is that the two women, especially Kelly, I guess, in a way, are so unapologetically raw, and like in completely different ways. Like Lauren is, you know, trying to keep it all together with what seems to, you know, be like quite a solid life with her family and her home and her job. to then this hurricane of Kelly coming back into her life, and someone, you know, she thought she'd never see again, along then with Kelly, you know, trying to figure out where she is and where she's going and who she is. And there's just nothing manicured or filtered. And I just think that's so brave and beautiful. And I think, you know, you don't necessarily have to have gone through anything like this to relate. It's so relatable in itself. Obviously speaking from a female point of view in completely different ways.
Yeah.
I really appreciated seeing.
Yeah. And I think it's been like, oh my God, like in Ireland, we've had such a history of repressing women, you know, and I think we're coming out the other side, but to come out the other side, you know, it is that just let the shackles go. And, you know, these characters, it's, you know, Kelly very much so, but she lives very free and wild. In fact, she's probably free falling because of that. She doesn't have the stability, you know, that Lauren has, but Lauren's stability is so suffocating because she's got this MED house. She's, you know, she's got the husband. What's next? Of course she has to have children. Why doesn't she have children? That's going to be the next question for her. And Kelly doesn't think of these things, you know. So Kelly coming back and so wild and free really startles Lauren into awaken to a different sense of herself. And I think it, you know, it really scares Sean, her husband, because he loves her. Clearly he loves her, but he loves her on certain terms, I think.
Yeah, and maybe a version of her as well, which is, and it's such a great supporting cast as well. I mean, the two girls are held up by, no one drops the ball, you know, everyone is so strong underneath them. And I was interested to ask if we had Nora-Jane on, like, you know, what was it like maybe stepping in and out of roles like Lauren and Kelly, because obviously there's a lot going on, and you know, what did they find it difficult maybe stepping in and out, because it's quite a heavy film, you know, so kind of
I can give you maybe a bit of context.
Yeah.
Yes, the shoot was incredibly demanding, but you know, and Nikka was incredibly prepared, but she was so prepared that, like, you know, she brought a Vitamix, you know, a blender, so she could make smoothies and soups, but so she could make frozen margaritas at the weekend, you know. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun making it. And in fact, what we would do in the cast bus on the way back to the hotel on a Friday, we'd have some beers in the back, and we would like have a karaoke session, which used to drive Nikka bananas because she was like, she hated karaoke. She hated it. But like, she got into it, and we would all be singing at the top of our lungs. And so I have so many fond memories of, you know, just the sheer fun that we had making it. And I know that probably seems a contradiction to, like, oh my God, but it's such a heavy film, how could you have fun? But like, there was such an energy those two girls brought, like, you know, the dance scene was electric, you know, to watch that, for them to be in it must have been like, you know, because these characters were living every inch of their lives, do you know what I mean, very, very vibrantly. And a lot of us sometimes just coast through days, coast through weeks, and coast through months, and just doing the same thing again and again. And these characters are like, they end up facing their darkest fears. They have that pure connection and that intimacy with each other, which, you know, only some people could dream of, you know, that you could know someone so well they'd be able to finish your sentence.
Exactly. And so obviously, like, all the work that you guys had done the years before, you know, and that trust and that relationship that you all had, let the girls then as well step in and out of these characters feeling so safe and supported and everything. So it definitely comes across. And
I think what Nora-Jane says is she found with Lauren, because she has to hold so much, she has to repress so much of her feelings, that she still has to feel it and bury it. And she found that when she started to have her release as a character, like the dance scene, that she found that cathartic and that freeing. Unfortunately, I don't know what Nikka's experience was of it. Like, you know, we did have some behind the scenes cam, and they shot some interviews and stuff like that. So we have some moments of her, but like, you know, I really miss that. I can't have those conversations. I don't know what her little catchphrases are, what, you know. But what I do know is that she was very proud of what she'd done, and she knew herself that she had given it everything. And you know, that's that's really special.
Absolutely. She's left behind such an amazing legacy of work. And I'd say such a privilege to have been a part of that as well. And I think a great tribute to Nikka would be for as many people as possible to go and see her performance in this, because it really is very special.
And what I would say is go see it on a big screen. Look into their eyes and just see like how really magnificent it is, the connection, the chemistry, because you don't quite get that on a laptop. You really don't, or a TV screen. Yeah, so definitely go and see it in the big screen and celebrate Nikka and just, she was a one-off.
Agreed. Celebrate Nikka and celebrate going back to the cinema. I mean, we can now, so why wouldn't we? But congratulations to you, Cathy, and also send my congratulations on to Nora-Jane as well. And yeah, here at Irish Film London, we wish you all the best with Wildfire's journey and your own individual successes as well. So thank you so much for squeezing me in today, and hopefully we will see you very soon at Irish Film London.
All the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cathy. And that's it from us here today at Irish Film London. Thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. And thank you again to Cathy for coming on to chat to me. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube. If you are listening to us on YouTube, do comment below. Let us know what you thought. And if myself and Jerry haven't plugged it enough at the beginning, do go onto our website, check out our September shorts and consider becoming a member. A final thank you to the two of our sponsors, the Irish Emigrant Support Programme and Culture Ireland, who've been brilliant supporters of ours for years. Nikka MaGuigan. The Irish Film London podcast is produced by me, Niamh Brannigan. We're edited by Owen Bill Cliff and our music is by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks again for listening and we'll see you again soon.